you guys all remember Victoria Nuland, right? So she's the Undersecretary for Political Affairs. She's also the woman who famously said, fuck the EU on that phone call, which was released a few years back, right? In regards to Ukraine. And here she is in front of the Senate, and she's basically, she's gloating, and she's so full of joy that Nord Stream 2, the gas pipeline linking Russia and Germany, has been destroyed, right?
Senator Cruz, like you, I am, and I think the administration is very gratified to know that Nord Stream 2 is now, as you like to say, a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea.
A hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. Please, don't mince your words. I mean, look, we didn't need this to figure anything out, but I just to kind of jog your memory, this is her a few months ago, right? Talking also about Nord Stream 2, okay?
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies, and I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Yeah, well, you blocked Nord Stream 2 before Russia went into Ukraine. So what, you're obviously a liar because they did that on February 22nd. There were no Russians in Ukraine. Is this something exclusive to Victoria Nuland? No. But anyway, here's Biden also.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be.
I don't know if it's the internet or it's Biden who's buffering. I want to show you one of our favorite neocons here on the show, Condoleezza Rice. Okay.
Now we need to have tougher sanctions, and I'm afraid at some point this is going to probably have to involve oil and gas. The Russian economy is vulnerable. 80% of Russian exports are in oil, gas, and minerals. People say, well, the Europeans will run out of energy. Well, the Russians will run out of cash before the Europeans run out of energy. And I understand that it's uncomfortable to have an effect on business ties in this way. But this is one of the few instruments that we have. Over the long run, you simply want to change the structure of energy dependence. You want to depend more on the North American energy platform, the tremendous bounty of oil and gas that we're finding in North America. You want to
Sounds like
have
a threat.
pipelines that don't go through Ukraine and Russia. For years, we've tried to get the Europeans to be interested in different pipeline routes. It's time to do that. And so some of this is simply acting, and acting as quickly as possible.
And of course, we have the infamous tweet from Sikorski, right, the Polish MEP, who said, "Thank you, USA," when the pipelines were blown up. Right? Not really mincing words either. Well, look, man, my point here is to show you have so many different politicians from various eras, right? So Condoleezza Rice was Bush administration, Nuland and Biden were both, with Obama, and now Biden's got his own gig running. So you can see that Republican, Democrat, neocon, neoliberal, it doesn't matter. They all have the same kind of agenda at the end, which is let's destroy the relationship between Russia and Europe. And you have to keep in mind that, after World War II, there's a consensus that, okay, well, to avoid another world war, it's good to have business ties with countries that you considered enemies at one point, because that way you don't have you have an incentive not to destroy the bridges that you've built, literally, with these neighbors, right? So, if Russia is giving Germany gas, it's good for both of them. Germany gets cheap gas, Russia gets money, right? So this incentivizes them to work together. And they were working together, and Nord Stream 2 was fucking done. But then the United States stepped in before Russia invaded Ukraine, like they were saying was a condition, and they blocked Nord Stream 2 anyway, and then they blew it up, even after the Russians had turned the tap off, which makes no sense. Again, I'm trying to understand here the logic of the Russians. They were saying, in the media, they're saying, oh my God, the Russians, they're turning off the gas to Europe, and they're trying to weaponize energy. And so obviously that means that they have the means to cut the gas off. And then when the pipelines were blown up, they said, "Oh, it's the Russians." Well, which one is it, man? Are they turning off the tap, or are they blowing it up? Like, it's both. What were they blowing up? There's nothing going through the fucking pipeline anyway. So you can see this is something that goes back, several decades. That the Americans want to make sure the Russians cannot build bridges with the Europeans, and further ties, business ties, diplomatic ties. They always try to put a wedge in it, and this is literally what happened. And I it's like they don't even hide their they have no shame. They don't even try to hide their joy at what did you say? Nord Stream 2 becoming a hunk of metal at the bottom of the sea. Yeah, okay. I believe you. Yeah, you're very happy about that. I know before you even said it. I know you're very happy. And just keep these videos in mind, when you hear something like, "Oh, this was Putin who did this," and no, it fucking wasn't. There are very few countries who have the means and the incentive and who are telling you to your face, "We don't like this pipeline," who could carry out such an operation. The one at the top of the list is the United States, and I think in second place you'd have the UK. And again, you remember that they were training in this area. They were doing exercises with underwater drones, right? With underwater unmanned underwater vehicles, UUV, as opposed to UAVs in the sky. So that was the U.S. Navy, the Royal Navy. You can all look this up. We went through this together. This is literally on the Royal Navy's website that they were doing exercises in the areas where Nord Stream and Nord Stream 2 pass. And another thing I would add is that the Germans, the Swedes, the Danes, they're all supposed to be investigating this. Have you heard anything for the last months? Because I haven't heard anything at all. Nothing. It's like they don't want to conclude whatever investigation or so-called investigation they're doing. They're just not interested, right? Because it's embarrassing and they can't do anything about it. I think this is one of the biggest infrastructure attacks in history, truly. It's by definition a terrorist attack, and it's carried out by a state actor, and no one wants to know who did it. No one has any ideas. No one has any conclusion after half a year. What is this? What? It's not incompetence. It's unwillingness, right? Unwillingness to point out this uncomfortable truth. You can go look at any politician you like in the United States, and you're going to find them all saying the same thing about Nord Stream 2. These are just a few examples. I found Rice's video the best. You know why? Because she's not just saying, "Well, we don't want the Russians, running pipelines to Europe." She says on top of it, "You want to buy our shit," which is what is happening right now. Everyone is turning to the U.S. As a possible, source of LNG, and that's what I love about neocons. They're so fucking, like shameless, just straight to your face. She's so funny, man. She's really funny. She's like a salesman. You want to depend on the American model, where we have freedom gas and all this stuff.